Most people believe talking more makes them heard, but the truth? The most dominant figures don't win by speaking, they win by mastering silence. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you said too much? Like you gave away too much information or lost control of the moment? Or maybe you've been in a situation where someone kept talking over you, and no matter what you said, it felt like your words didn't carry any weight. Here's something most people don't realize. Silence is a weapon. Think about the most powerful figures in history, the ones who command respect. Pause. They never rush to speak. Pause. They don't waste words. Pause. They let silence do the work. Look at Elon Musk. When he's asked a question, he pauses. He lets the silence sit. That silence makes people lean in, wait for his words, value them more. That's not hesitation. That's power. The same goes for Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, some of the greatest thinkers in history. They knew that the less you say, the more weight your words carry. And that's what we're going to break down in this video. How to use silence to control conversations, build mental strength, and make people listen without saying a word. Let's get started. Silence isn't just golden, it's a weapon. In negotiations, in debates, in high-stakes situations, the person who controls the conversation isn't the one who talks the most. It's the one who speaks the least, but with the most impact. Think about it. Who commands more respect? The person who talks endlessly, explaining themselves, trying to prove a point? Or the one who listens, observes, and speaks only when absolutely necessary? History proves this over and over again. Take Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers. He lived under Emperor Nero, one of the most unstable and dangerous rulers in Roman history. Nero was impulsive, paranoid, and ruthless. One wrong word could mean death. So how did Seneca survive? Not by arguing, not by defending himself, but by practicing strategic silence. He knew that sometimes the most powerful move wasn't to speak, but to wait. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, lived by the same rule. He believed in choosing words carefully, in speaking only when necessary. In his own words, say only what is essential. This is what separates those who dominate conversations from those who lose control. And if you're finding this valuable already, take a second right now, hit the like button and share this video. The more people who understand this, the less power meaningless words will have. All right, let's dive deeper. How do you actually use silence to take control of any conversation? Let's break it down. 1. Silence is power. Why it makes you more dominant. Most people believe that power in a conversation comes from speaking, but true dominance comes from the ability to withhold your words. When you stay silent, you create a psychological void, an empty space that makes others uncomfortable. People feel compelled to fill that silence, often revealing more than they intend to. This is a powerful advantage. Think about high-stakes interrogations. Skilled interrogators don't bombard suspects with endless questions. Instead, they ask a direct question, and then they wait. The silence builds pressure, forcing the other person to speak just to break the tension. And in doing so, they often expose their own weaknesses. This works in business, relationships, and even conflicts. The moment you stop reacting, you take control. You make others doubt themselves. Psychologists call this the silent pressure effect. When you don't respond immediately, the other person starts to wonder what you're thinking. They project their own insecurities onto the silence. This gives you an upper hand, making you appear more composed, more strategic, and more powerful. Practical application. So, how do you use this to your advantage? Let's say someone tries to provoke you. Maybe they insult you, criticize you, or try to get an emotional reaction. Most people would immediately defend themselves, argue, or lash out. But if you remain silent, if you just look at them and say nothing, you put them in a position where they have to deal with their own words. The longer you hold your silence, the more uncomfortable they become. They might start stumbling over their words, backtracking, or even apologizing. You've just turned their own energy against them without saying a single word. This is how silence makes you dominant. It shifts the power dynamic. It makes them work for your response. Master this and you'll never feel powerless in a conversation again. But staying silent is just the first step. If you want to develop an unshakable mindset, you need discipline. You need to train yourself to resist the urge to speak when it's unnecessary. And that's exactly what we're going to cover in the next section, the 30-day strategy to build mental toughness. 2. The 30-day strategy to develop an unbreakable mindset. Most people believe that mental toughness comes from speaking with authority, from asserting yourself in every conversation. But in reality, true strength comes from controlling your reactions. The people who dominate conversations, the ones who hold real power, aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who know when to stay silent, when to withhold their response, when to let others expose themselves while they remain composed. As Seneca once said, "He who controls his emotions controls the outcome." If you want to develop a mindset that is unshakable, you need to train yourself to resist impulsive reactions. And the best way to do that, a structured 30-day discipline challenge. This method will rewire the way you communicate and transform the way people perceive you. Week 1. Awareness. Recognize your speaking patterns. The first step is to become aware of how often you speak, and more importantly, when you speak unnecessarily. For 1 week, pay attention to every conversation. Ask yourself, are you talking because you have something valuable to say, or are you speaking just to fill the silence? Are you reacting emotionally, or are you responding with intention? At the end of each day, write down 3 situations where you could have spoken less. This will start training your mind to value silence over reaction. Week 2. Practicing silence, learn to hold back. Now that you've identified your patterns, it's time to implement silence as a strategic tool. For the next 7 days, practice this simple exercise. In every conversation, before responding, pause. Give yourself 3 seconds of silence before speaking. It might feel unnatural at first, but this does 2 things. It forces you to think before you speak, and it makes the other person more invested in what you're about to say. You'll notice something interesting. When you pause, people lean in. They listen more carefully. Your words begin to carry more weight. Week 3. The power pause, mastering the 3 to 5 second rule. By this point, you've trained yourself to resist impulsive speaking. Now, it's time to refine it further with the power pause. In every situation, whether it's a business meeting, a debate, or a casual conversation, use the 3 to 5 second rule before answering. This moment of silence creates tension. It signals to the other person that you're considering your words carefully, and it forces them to respect your response before you even say a word. World leaders, negotiators, and elite communicators all use this technique. It's why people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Warren Buffett have an almost intimidating presence when they speak. They don't rush. They command the room with silence. Week 4. Emotional control, becoming unshakable. Now comes the final and most crucial step, mastering emotional control. By this point, you're speaking less, pausing more, and using silence as a tool. But to truly dominate conversations, you must become immune to provocation. The greatest power you can wield is the ability to stay completely unbothered when someone tries to get a reaction out of you. For the final week, practice non-reactivity. When someone insults you, challenges you, or pressures you for a response, remain silent. Look at them. Hold the pause. Let them feel the tension. You'll notice something incredible. The more you refuse to react emotionally, the more control you gain over any situation. After 30 days of this discipline, you'll no longer be the person who speaks just to fill space. You'll no longer react impulsively. Instead, you'll have the ability to command silence, control conversations, and maintain absolute composure under pressure. But silence is just one part of the equation. If you truly want to dominate social dynamics, you need to understand how to use silence strategically in negotiations, debates, and high-pressure situations. That's what we'll cover next. 3. How to stay silent when you want to speak. Staying silent is easy when there's nothing to say. But what about when emotions rise, when someone challenges you? Most people feel the need to react, to defend, to explain. But true strength comes from restraint. As Seneca said, a strong person is not the one who speaks best, but the one who knows when not to speak. The power of silent resistance. When someone provokes you, they want a reaction. If you stay silent, they lose control. Picture this. You're being attacked verbally. Instead of responding, you pause. You hold eye contact. You say nothing. The silence grows. The attacker becomes uneasy. They start repeating themselves, softening, or even backtracking. Your silence forces them to confront their own words without you lifting a finger. Using body language instead of words. Hold eye contact, shows confidence, makes them uneasy. Relax your posture. No defensive gestures, no fidgeting. Slow movements, controlled actions signal control. Subtle nods, acknowledge without giving anything away. Master these, and even without speaking, you will dominate the room. Why silence is more powerful than retaliation. Most think the best defense is a clever comeback. It's not. The best defense is no engagement. Great leaders, negotiators, and warriors don't react emotionally. They let their opponents reveal their weaknesses while they remain composed. When you refuse to react, you gain the upper hand, because control always belongs to the one who speaks last. Now let's take it even further. How to make people respect your presence without saying a word. The golden rule of elite negotiators. The most powerful negotiators are not the ones who talk the most. They are the ones who know when to stay silent. Successful CEOs, world-class investors, and expert deal-makers never rush to answer a question. Instead, they wait. They let the other person fill the silence, revealing more than they intended. The pause and observe strategy. When faced with a tough question, most people feel pressured to respond immediately, but great negotiators do the opposite. They pause. This pause serves two purposes. First, it makes the other person uneasy, often causing them to keep talking and expose weaknesses. Second, it gives you time to analyze their words and respond with precision. It's a psychological trick. People hate silence. The longer you wait, the more desperate they become to break it, and in that desperation, they make mistakes. How to apply it in real life. Next time someone asks you a difficult question, pause for 5 seconds before answering. If someone pressures you for a response, simply look at them, nod slightly, and say nothing. Use silence as a test. Whoever speaks first often gives away their position. This is why the best negotiators are always the calmest people in the room. They never rush. They never let emotions dictate their words, and because of that, they always control the conversation. So you now understand how silence shifts power. But here's the next level. How do you make people respect you without uttering a single word? Let's break it down. 5. The mystery that commands respect. Why you should speak less. People are naturally drawn to mystery. The less you reveal, the more others want to know, and in that curiosity, you gain power. Think about the most respected figures in history. They didn't constantly talk about themselves. Instead, they spoke sparingly, making every word count. When you speak less, what you say carries more weight. The power of being mysterious. Those who are too open, too eager to share, lose their edge. When people know everything about you, they stop wondering. They stop respecting. Great leaders and influential figures understand this. They reveal just enough to spark curiosity, but never too much. This keeps others engaged, guessing, and always seeking more. In social and professional settings, the person who speaks the least is often the one who holds the most power. Why? Because silence creates an aura of confidence. It signals that you don't need validation from others. How to apply this in everyday life? Limit how much you share about yourself. Only speak when necessary. Always leave some details out. Give people a reason to stay interested. Let others do the talking. Listen more than you speak, and you'll notice how people naturally gravitate toward you. By speaking less, you create mystery, and mystery commands respect. Now that you understand the power of mystery, let's talk about the final piece. How to apply Stoic discipline to control your emotions and dominate any situation. 6. Lessons from Marcus Aurelius. Discipline in speech. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic emperors, lived by a simple rule. Speak less than what you think, but think more than what you say. Words are powerful. They can build empires, destroy reputations, and shift the course of history, but only if they are used wisely. If you control your words, you control your power. The philosophy of restraint in speech. Most people speak without thinking. They react, they ramble, they try to fill silence with words that hold no value. But those who are truly powerful, those who are respected, speak only when necessary. Marcus Aurelius understood that speech should be deliberate. Every word should serve a purpose. Anything beyond that is wasted energy. This is why some of the most powerful leaders in history were known for their measured speech. They didn't speak to be heard, they spoke to be remembered. How to apply this principle? Slow down when you speak. Give your words time to settle. Think before responding. Never react impulsively. Keep your answers short but meaningful. Less is more. When you master discipline in speech, you become unshakable. People listen to you not because you demand attention, but because they know that when you do speak, it truly matters. Now that you've learned how to use silence as power, let's recap the key strategies, and I'll show you how to implement them starting today. By now, you understand one thing: silence is power. We've covered the most important strategies that will help you dominate any conversation without saying too much. Silence creates authority. The less you say, the more people listen. The 30-day strategy to mental toughness, training yourself to stay composed and in control. Speaking less gives you control. The one who talks less dictates the flow of the conversation. The most powerful people in history, Stoic philosophers, great leaders, elite negotiators, didn't dominate by talking more. They dominated by knowing when to stay silent, when to speak, and how to make every word count. Now it's your turn. If you want to develop an unshakable mindset and command respect in every conversation, start practicing these strategies today. If this video gave you even one powerful insight, don't just sit on it, act on it. Hit the like button right now. Share this with someone who needs to hear this, and trust me, what's coming next? You won't want to miss it. And if you want more strategies like this, subscribe now, because I guarantee what's coming next will change the way you communicate forever. Remember, the strongest person in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who knows when to stay silent. I'll see you in the next video.